From the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, we bring you the Gimme Three podcast. Hello and welcome, cinephiles, cinema lovers, movie appreciators, friends and family, to the Gimme Three podcast, a series for cinephiles. This is a show where we pick 3 films based on one theme, and the gang is back together again. I am Nicholas Ybarra, and I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Bella Efstratis. Bella, we made it. We are finally here together in one show.
We did it. Yeah, don't ever leave me again. No, I'm kidding. We had fun, but it certainly was not the same without you.
You did an excellent job. I was so pleased to, what it was a little validating for me that I was able to listen to the show and hear you do such a great job. But I was like, this is a great idea for a show, and I'm just enjoying. if this wasn't my show, I'd still be listening to it. So that was actually very nice.
I love that. I'm so happy to hear it. Yeah, we had so many fun guests. And
yeah, they were all terrific.
Crazy themes, and we went from Harry Potter to war.
Yeah,
I was all over the place last month.
It's good. It's good. So yeah, thank you again for taking the reins and doing such a bang up job.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
Happy to be back together. And
yes,
we figured there's no better way to celebrate getting the OG team back together than to celebrate one of the triple OGs of all time. Today we are celebrating the life and the career of one Gena Rowlands, who sadly passed away earlier this month, August 14th, 2024. She passed away. She was 94 years young. But she left behind a collection of mesmerizing work, an accomplished career, and some of the greatest performances ever to grace the silver screen, which including, of course, her Academy Award nominated performance in A Woman Under the Influence, which is just a masterclass in acting. We discussed that film actually not too long ago in our Great Mothers episode for Mother's Day. So if you scroll back to episode 15, you can hear Bella and I discuss A Woman Under the Influence. But in addition to that classic performance, she had a lot of other incredible roles, including 9 more collaborations with actor, writer, director, and her husband, John Cassavetes, including 3 pictures that we're going to discuss today. It's all Cassavetes Rowlands today. And she also appeared in the Woody Allen film, Another Woman. She appeared in another movie that was on frequent rotation in the Ybarra VCR, Hope Floats, with Sandra Bullock. And then, of course, she was in her son Nick Cassavetes' film, The Notebook, a modern romance classic, if I do say so myself. Have you seen The Notebook, Bella?
Oh my God, I still haven't seen The Notebook.
Oh, you're going to love The Notebook, let me tell you.
I'm excited to watch it, especially having watched all of Jena's these films we're talking about today.
And you get to see just this was the movie that made Ryan Gosling a star, I think. Was The Notebook. But also it's kind of fun to watch John Cassavetes' work, which now you've seen so much of his work, and see his style, and see his son Nick Cassavetes' work, which is totally different.
Totally different, I'm sure. Yeah. I know, that's so crazy.
So it's kind of like refreshing.
Yeah. No, totally.
But Gena is in her own right a 2-time Golden Globe winner, a 4-time Emmy Award winner, and in 2015 she received the honorary Academy Award in what was said, they said it was in recognition of her unique screen performances. And I said, that does not do it justice. If you ask me, I would put on the plaque in recognition as the most important boundary-pushing actor in American cinema. How is that for a bold statement?
So much better. Yes. I couldn't agree more.
So before we get into the amazing films that we are going to be discussing today. Bella, any overall thoughts on Gena Rowlands and her work?
I'm almost like speechless when it comes to like it was kind of hard to prepare for this episode just
It is,
because
yeah.
like I'm almost speechless when it comes to describing how brilliant of a performer she is. And yeah, I'm just so excited to dive into all of these films today. And honestly, yeah, now that we've done so much or we've watched so much John Cassavetes, I'm like, I'm a fan now. I'm like, I'm going to go and watch all of his movies.
Yeah, he's an incredible filmmaker, and they just made a outstanding knockout punch duo, and I think that's
Yeah.
why they worked together so frequently. I mean, aside from loving each other in real life, they were
Mhm.
married, but I think Cassavetes said like she's my muse, and
Yeah.
it's you could see it, you could just
100%. And even like vice versa too. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
they both just equally inspired each other so much. It's which is inspiring in itself. So, yeah, it just makes these movies that much better having kind of like that background to it.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it because
Yeah.
it's going to be a wild ride today.
Yeah,
and
I have a lot to say.
yeah, there's no better way to celebrate the life of Gena Rowlands than to talk about movies that are just going to punch you in the face. So here we go. Bella's going to kick us off here.
Yes. So our first Gena Rowlands film is a 1968 John Cassavetes masterpiece, written, produced, and directed by Cassavetes, introducing the smoky, sultry, sardonic, alcohol-soaked marriage drama Faces.
Mm.
The story revolves around the turbulent relationship of a middle-aged suburban couple. We've got Richard and Maria Forst, played by John Marley and Lynn Carlin, who was also nominated for an Oscar for her performance as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought that was really great. So each night we watch the two just push each other further and further away with like their drunken words and actions. Though wealthy and successful, Richard finds himself in a midlife crisis in his marriage, and so he begins an affair with a younger woman played by the Gena Rowlands. In his absence and his betrayal, Maria seeks solace in a younger man, whom she met on a night out on the town with her friends, played by Seymour Cassell. Sorry, I'm not sure if I may have botched his name, but he also received an Oscar nom for this performance. So I thought it was kind of funny that those two like supporting characters got Oscar noms.
Yeah.
But they do have such an incredible scene together that we'll definitely talk about that I think sealed the deal on that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Faces is this movie is filled to the brim with so many just like issues of the human condition as it tackles themes of love, infidelity, dissatisfaction, aging, loss, and the entirely consuming crisis of losing your personal identity that can happen many times throughout life, honestly. So Cassavetes' brilliant writing and his filmmaking style and techniques really brings all of these uncomfortable issues right to the surface, especially through his realistic characters and the actors' just most outstanding performances. Gena Rowlands, our Woman of the Hour, stars as the other woman in Richard's life, Jeannie. Jeannie is a deeply lonely and depressed young woman who becomes the life of the party each night, drowning herself in liquor in the company of equally inebriated bastards and perverts,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And this is just such an underrated role in that I would argue there are kind of like two sides to Jenna's character. And only by the end of the film do we really start to question like who she really is. Did we ever even really know her? Did Richard ever even really know her? And throughout the film, she just brings so much joy, laughter, pain, authenticity, and depth to this character, fully embodying Jeannie in all her beauty, heartbreak, and glory. So, yeah, I this performance was just unreal. I have to say really quickly, like as a Lana Del Rey fan, Jeannie's storyline and character reminded me so much of Lana's like aesthetic and her stories and her music. You know, we've got Jeannie getting drunk and partying with older men who are like total douchebags and just trying to drink away all her pain and sorrows. And be surrounded by others constantly, even if they're not necessarily good people, because the loneliness is so much worse.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she like comes home with a lot of men each night, she's more of like, I thought she was more of like a temptress than a seductress. Like, she knows exactly what she wants out of a man in her life, and she kind of lives for like the tease and the flirtation, especially when surrounded by blithering idiots throughout the whole film. But then Richard, or Dickie, as she calls him, walks in and just like completely sweeps her off her feet. And she's startled by it because she finds herself back in uncharted territory and spiraling out of control of her feelings and her actions, especially considering that these feelings are towards a married man, which just makes the situation that much more intense and complex. But yeah, this performance was just unreal. I'm probably going to say that about all of them in this episode. Before I get even more carried away than I already have, Nick, what were your thoughts on Faces?
Yeah, it was a very, as most of Cassavetes' work is, unique. Here, I'm using the word that the Academy used that I was shitting on earlier. It's all very unique. Very good work, Cassavetes. Disorienting is probably a better word. And this is like a real independent film, like it kind of looks like Ass,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
in the best way.
In the best way. It like totally works. Most of it's in close-ups, and the close-ups really, really work. But Gena's performance in particular, as you said, she is kind of like the life of the party for some of this. And then you see her standing up for herself against some of these drunk assholes.
Mm-hmm.
But what's incredible about her performance is so much of what we do learn about her as who's the real Genie, as you said, who's the real character in there. We do learn some of it, but it's all done non-verbally. You know what I mean? Like you see these little looks that she gives towards the end of the film towards Dickie, and she's starting to maybe figure him out, or she's trying to realize something about herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all done through subtext. So you're getting this life of the party, and we think we know who this girl is, but then we find out maybe this girl's a little bit more deep than we initially thought.
Yeah.
She never says it. Dickie never even says it. She just shows us. And that is just something that is very hard to do, especially for a character that, like this is an ensemble film, an ensemble film. Totally. It's a little bit harder for actors to develop the characters in without that less screen time, but she really delivered a full-fledged, complete arc with her performance, and I just thought it was really fun to watch. And she's young and gorgeous and just mesmerizing to watch.
Absolutely mesmerizing. Like, even just from the very beginning, I was hooked. Like, that intro, I was not expecting that. I thought that was so cool and very ahead of its time. And then, I thought that was also an example of just how clear it is that Gena is Cassavetes' muse and like great love, because after the title card, the first thing it cuts to is Gena's face. It's like the first thing we see, and it's just the most gorgeous, like, close up, and those eyes, like her eyes just say it all to me. Honestly, she could just give me a look and I'd be like, I got you. Yep. It's so crazy.
And we talked about this when we talked about A Woman Under the Influence, and with this film and the next film that we're going to talk about in particular, I got to touch on it again, but Cassavetes just does this thing where he marinates in these scenes that are extremely uncomfortable. And most of the time when stuff gets like really uncomfortable, there's only so much of it, you think the audience can take, and then they're like, all right, time to cut to the next scene, because we've done it, or we want to shorten it but he just marinates in that shit. And he's just like, all right, let's play it out. Let's see how much further we can take this. And it's just like, it goes on for minutes and minutes and minutes. And then when you think it's over, it keeps going. It keeps going. And then there's a twist into it and it keeps going. And it's just like, my God. But certainly modern American filmmakers would cut away, about 15 minutes earlier in most of these scenes than he does. He just lets it ride. And in that letting it ride, the actors are able to fucking play. And that's where you get some of these just jaw-dropping, rough, uncomfortable performances.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Like, the whole time I was just like, I'm not convinced that this is, like, I was like, I'm convinced that they're actually drunk.
Yeah.
And they're just like hanging out. Like, I was like, if this has to be just like a drunk improv class, basically, right? Because it was just so realistic. Like you said, like, I think that first drunk night that we see is one of my favorite scenes in the film. And it's, I think, the most realistic kind of like drunk conversation or scene that I've ever seen in a movie before. Like, from the performances to the writing, it's just exactly how really very drunk people act.
Yeah.
And like, it's funny because I felt, for me, I was like, oh, this movie started out pretty fucking funny, like they're making all these ridiculous points. Like, one of the characters, Freddie, has a line where he says, I only believe in Aesop's fables and Walt Disney. And I thought that was hilarious. And they're like going back and forth with these silly little jokes and then like deep conversations. And then they transition into Dickie crying and Jeannie's like, Freddie, do something, like make him stop.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah. And it's just like their emotions and like their thoughts are all over the place. Suddenly they're dancing, wrestling. And then by the end of it, things go very south. And like you said, the tension and the unease just bubbles right to the surface. And it literally gave me like a visceral reaction of like discomfort and awkwardness, even though I'm just watching a movie. And that's just the beginning. Like, this whole movie feels like you're the one sober person at the function, like a fly on the wall, and you're just watching everything unfold, and people are making absolute fools of themselves. And it's bizarre because it's like equally funny as it is extremely painful to watch at times.
That's a great way to describe it. You're the sober person at the except for me, because I was drunk as shit watching this. I'm just kidding. No, but
that would be an entirely different experience.
But you're watching and it's like you talking about the movie. It's like after you're like driving home from the party where you and your partner weren't drunk, and you're just like, my God, that's they're getting divorced.
Exactly. You're just like, wow, I can't believe we witnessed that.
Yeah.
Awkward. Hopefully no one remembers it the next day.
I want to shout out, I know this is the Gena Rowlands show, but want to shout out Lynn Carlin, who plays Maria Frost, and I love her in this movie, and I recently saw her in another film called Taking Off, which was by Milos Forman. Oh, Milos's like first American film, and god damn, that was second of a double bill, and it played after Man on the Moon at the New Beverly. Wow. And I was like, fuck, man, I'm tired. I don't know if I want to stay for this. I stayed for it, and I was like, holy shit, this is like a new favorite of mine. And she carries that movie in a way that is so mesmerizing, and a lot of the similar themes to this film as well. But my God, she kind of like Gena, she's just got this face and like these eyes that just, they like scream like, let me out of this cage, I don't know.
Yes.
She's just great.
Like, so composed on the surface, but there's just like a fire within, like you can feel it. I'm glad you brought it up, because honestly, like she was the second scene stealer for me in this film.
I
Yeah.
love that first scene with her husband. She says something like, "I'm feeling very, very bitchy today." It's like,
Yes.
oh, what a great line of dialogue.
It's so good. This movie is so quotable,
Yeah.
honestly. It's so funny. Even and I love like it's also kind of like a love letter to movies in a way too, where like in very subtle ways, like there's a line where she's like to her husband, she's like, "There's a Bergman film in the neighborhood tonight," and he's like, "I don't feel like getting depressed tonight."
Yeah.
It's like so true. Oh, it's so good.
So good. And then you watch this movie and you're like, oh, brother.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The irony.
But yeah, you mentioned Seymour Cassell. Great to see him so young. And it's funny
Mm.
because he's so young in this movie, but he still kind of looks like an old man. Or maybe it's just because like I know
Yeah,
him as an older actor, but he's got that like he's got resting old man face, even though he's like in his 20s in this movie. I was
yeah. When
like,
they say he's 23, I was like, no.
but he was a wild character.
Yeah. Oh my god. He had
And
some of the craziest scenes in
yeah,
that movie.
yeah. I do want to talk about the ending,
Yeah.
which is a spoiler for those who care and don't
Yeah.
want to be spoiled. Fast forward a few notches, but I loved the ending so much because Maria and what's the husband's name? Dickie.
Dickie. Yeah.
He comes home and there's been another guy there, and obviously he's been out cheating and probably had multiple
Yeah.
affairs at this point. And she's just like, yo, I don't love you and I'm unhappy.
Yeah.
And they're like sitting on the stairs and they're like smoking cigarettes. And she goes upstairs and like puts something on. And he's like blocking the staircase because he's like
Mm.
has his feet up against it. And she like is walking down the stairs and she just comes up to his legs and he's not moving. And she goes, "Excuse me." And he moves his legs and the subtext is just like, "Get out of my way, bro.
Yep.
Get out of my way." And then they go their separate ways on the staircase. I was like, wow, what a line, what a delivery, and what a visual. It's like, what a
Yes.
wallop of an ending in a single shot that just delivers everything you need to know. They're separating,
Yes.
and she is gonna be the caged bird is free. You know what they say?
Exactly. Yeah. She's standing up for herself now. Oh, I
Love that.
loved that end shot. I'm so glad you brought it up because I was just like, that shot and that line says it all. Like, it's just the perfect way to sum up the film. And it also made me think of like, I just loved the cinematography. I know this is the Gena Rowlands tribute, but the cinematography in this film is unreal. I love the like cinema verite style, which we talked a lot about in our Agnes Varda episode. And then just like I loved how because this scene made me specifically think of how the each house, like Jeannie's house and Maria's house, are
Mhm.
almost like characters in the film because
Yeah.
they're the two main stages. And I just loved how the camera worked with them in so many ways of like using the house to frame the actors specifically in that last shot. But I noticed that it happened like a lot throughout the film. And it reminded me a lot of Yasujiro Ozu's Tokyo Story, which was a movie that came out like 15 years before this. And that kind of cinematography really defined the style of it. And I was wondering if maybe it like influenced this. And I thought it was really interesting if it did, because in that film, those shots are used in like a very calm and tranquil and unified way.
Mhm.
Whereas in Faces, these framed shots all capture like the most wild, chaotic moments among like friends and couples. So I just thought that was such a cool way to like capture the vibe and elevate the intensity of all the different relationships in this film.
Yeah. I think the frame within a frame is what they call it. And I think different
Yeah.
filmmakers use it in different ways depending on the type of filmmaker they are. Like John Ford always used
Yeah.
to use the frame within a frame to show kind of like an isolation of a character or like
Mm.
them feeling like boxed in, and even if they're in like these wide open lands. The Cassavetes is always, he's like, let's throw fucking chaos. He uses it a
Yeah.
lot in a Woman Under the Influence. Also, a lot of
Yeah.
frame using doorways to kind of
Oh,
accentuate the box in feeling that character is going through. So,
I
yeah,
love it.
good eye on that.
I love it. It's so good.
And also to your point, yeah, the production design and how they kind of use those to help develop Maria's character and Jeannie's character. Because again, they until
Yeah.
the end, Maria never really says, you know, how she. Well, I guess she does. She says she's bored in the first scene, but
True.
but
But barely.
but Jeannie's character definitely doesn't. So you use a
Yeah.
lot of the production design to kind of like inform who these people are. And to your
Mm-hmm.
point about Jeannie, like I totally see that Lana Del Rey thing, because like she's got these like glass trays that are all just like very nice, and she's
Mm-hmm.
got like feathers hanging off of all her shit, and it's just like everything just looks like so feminine and elegant.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you do for a living? Where you have
I
all
was
this
wondering that the
elegant
whole
shit.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's very says a lot, again,
Mm-hmm.
without saying anything.
Like, in a way, she is kind of like the mysterious femme fatale,
Mm-hmm.
but then also like with a twist, because you're like, oh, there's so much more to this character. And you're just so curious, like, what it is exactly. But I love the vagueness or like ambiguity of that. I think it almost
Yeah.
is like more powerful than giving her like a specific trauma or backstory that explains why she is the way she is.
Any
Um,
final thoughts on Faces before we move on?
well, a final little thought I had that I was curious if you thought about this, but there's one shot that I just wanted to talk to you about that's like it's on the second drunken night. I don't know exactly. I just think of them in that way, even though I'm sure it's not like back to back to back.
I couldn't tell if this was two different nights, or if it was
Right?
consecutive nights, or if it was all
Yeah.
one night. It was all very
Yeah.
ambiguous. Yeah.
It's so ambiguous. But so I guess second drunk sequence with like Jeannie and Dickie, where the other two business, like it's when Dickie comes over to the house and the other
Right.
two business guys are already there.
Right.
But there's this POV shot that I swear had to have inspired, like, unless it's been done before, but the love-hate shot in Do the Right Thing, because it's where this like businessman pervert is like looking into the camera at Jeannie, and then she walks around it into the frame and his focus like shifts to her. And it's like the exact same shot of Radio Raheem showing Spike Lee his new love hate bling, and then Spike like moving into the frame to finish their discussion. So I thought that was really cool, because I was like, oh, I only noticed that because we like just watched those movies.
I am certain that Spike Lee is a Cassavetes fan, because they're
Yeah,
a couple of New York filmmakers. But
true.
the love hate thing is inspired by some film in particular,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I forget what it is.
I think it's like Night of the Hunter or something like
something
that.
like that, because he's referencing something that had like something written on
Yeah.
knuckles. But
Oh, I wonder if they did that shot first then. Yeah.
maybe, yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I thought that was cool.
But I'm sure Spike has taken some influence from Cassavetes. They both have that
I could see it.
that energy in their filmmaking, where it just feels hyper, but at the same time uncomfortably real. And you're just like,
Yeah.
ooh, wee, get me out of here. But also, I don't want to leave.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think my official final thought is this might be one of my like new favorite movies. I can't lie. I think it just like was such a great movie in terms of like storytelling and filmmaking that I've ever seen. I just I like ate it up. I loved it. And I also went into it completely blind, so I had no idea what I was getting into.
I'll tell you, my final thought is, after this movie and the next movie we're going to talk about, I was like, I need a cigarette, and I don't even smoke, because it's just so much smoking of cigarettes in these movies. Like, it's just nonstop. In every single scene, somebody always has a cigarette in their hand.
Always.
And I'm just like, fuck, man, Gena Rowlands looks so good with a cigarette in her mouth. It's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
my God.
It's pretty amazing.
Faces, directed by John Cassavetes, and it is available on HBO Max right now, in fact. So check that out. It should also be mentioned that I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I will say this. As we're talking about these movies, you're going to want to watch a lot of them. You're going to be inspired to watch more Gena Rowlands films. And I'll tell you this, for our listeners in the great city of Los Angeles, this coming, I think it's Thursday and Friday, they are playing Love Streams, another Cassavetes Rowlands collaboration. They actually programmed this before her passing, so it's just coincidence.
Oh, wow.
But Sonja and I are going to be seeing that at the New Beverly Thursday, the 29th, 35 millimeters. So if you want to see another incredible film by Gena Rowlands and John Cassavetes, come on down. Don't be shy to say what's up to us. And then the American Cinematheque is playing a lot of Gena's movies over the month of September. They're doing like a career retrospective of her. So
awesome.
I don't have that calendar in front of me, but I saw they were playing a lot. So check out that calendar. Some of the movies we might be talking about might be on that calendar, so you can see it on the big screen. There's plenty of opportunity to experience Gena on the big screen right now, the way God intended. But if you don't, or you don't live in Los Angeles, it's available on HBO Max. Which brings us to Opening Night. 1977, written and directed by John Cassavetes. Oh, Opening Night. I needed a drink after this movie, too.
Oh, yeah.
Opening Night follows Myrtle Gordon, who is a very accomplished, well-respected actress. Some would say famous. And she is in the midst of doing previews for a Broadway play that she's in. It's called The Second Woman. And on the first night of previews, Myrtle meets a fan outside of the playhouse. All these fans are coming at her. And this fan is just a tidal wave of emotion. Her name's Nancy. And she's crying all over her. And she's fallen to her knees. And she's hugging and kissing her legs. I mean, this is true fanaticism. And Myrtle's like, oh, okay, well, like, Jesus Christ, get a hold of yourself, come see me tomorrow. And like, we'll talk. She's kind of taken by this Nancy and all of her emotion. She's like, she zeroes in on her. It's like, come see me tomorrow. And so Myrtle and the director and the cast get in this car, and Nancy's just like banging on the window, and it's pouring rain outside. And she's just like crying outside the window. And she's like, what is up with the dude? Roll down the window. I'm trying to talk to this girl. Something's not right with her. And car drives away, and in the rear view mirror, they see, amongst the rain and the dark, boom! This girl gets hit by a car and perishes. That's a fancy word for dies. Yeah, I know. I don't know why I chose the word perishes.
I liked it. It was just very descriptive. I was very locked in.
And then, okay, so Myrtle is just like, holy shit, that's the fucking girl. The girl that I was like enamored with is dead. And she's distraught by this, obviously, and distraught by everybody's like laissez-faire about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And the spirit, I would guess, of this young fan, this youthful actor, continues to visit Myrtle throughout the film. On top of all this, the play that Myrtle is doing, The Second Woman, she cannot connect to this play. She cannot connect to the character that she's portraying, mostly because all anybody could tell her about the role, including the writer, is that it's about an aging woman. That's all they could give her. Oh, it's about an aging woman. You get it. You're aging. Be aging. But she's looking for something more than that. She's looking for some depth. She's looking for a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose. And maybe in the role, maybe she's looking for all that in herself as well. So, Bella, what were your thoughts on opening night?
What a great introduction. Yeah, oh my God, this movie was fucking bonkers, dude. Like, talk about a masterclass in acting. It's always so fun and just so impressive to watch an actor play an actor in a film.
Yeah.
And I think this might be the greatest, or honestly, like most talented example of that, with Gena Rowlands' performance and her co-stars as well,
Yeah.
who just like matched her level through and through to the end.
I should mention John Cassavetes plays like her co-star in the play, so we get to see a little bit of a Rowlands Cassavetes going at it here.
Yeah, that was really fun to see. I think Myrtle Gordon is such a devastating character. You know, she has so much talent and heart, but she's like surrounded by these corrupt and manipulative and predatory men in the industry who like basically treat her either like an object of desire or a circus animal. Like there's no in between. Specifically, like not once is she treated like a human being by the director of the play. I think his name is like Manny.
Manny.
And it's honestly like horrifying to watch. They try to write her off as a diva when in reality she's just reacting to this like severe level of abuse that she's subjected to, specifically in this play as well.
She is a little bit of a diva, I will say.
Okay, definitely. But okay, you're right. There are definitely times where I was like, oh, okay, like entitled little bitch. But then like all the men in the play would come up to her and just say the most horrible stuff. And I was just like, oh my God, dude, like this is not a healthy environment. But you're right. I shouldn't say that she's not a total diva, because that was definitely there from the very beginning.
Yeah, she is constantly drunk.
Yeah, and that too. Yes. Which is so funny because I was watching like an interview with Gena Rowlands a lot later in her life talking about this film, and she was like, oh yeah, I've acted with actresses that drunk before. And I was like, oh my God.
Shoosh, I have too, man, and it's not fun.
It doesn't seem like a good time in this film or in any other situation. Yeah, I loved like the progression of this film and the character. And also like I think this, out of all the Cassavetes films I've seen, I would say this is the most like surrealist.
Yeah.
Like visually and then obviously even kind of thematically, like, you know, Myrtle's being haunted in a way. But I love that it like really leaves it up to you to interpret whether or not she's actually being haunted, or she's losing her mind, or she's just full method acting to like really get into that character.
Right. Or if it's like some sort of like, you know, artistic allegory, you know, like
or if it's outside of the character.
And I think one of the cool things about the film is I don't think any of those answers are wrong. I think that you can make an argument for all of them.
Totally.
Which is a credit to Gena Rowlands' performance also, because she she is constantly making you uncertain of reality. And she's a what they call an unreliable narrator is what she is.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God, yeah, that was probably like my favorite, but also my favorite aspect that also like kind of drove me insane was just like how, you know, she's losing sense of reality, but so was I watching this. I don't blame her for not being able to tell what's real and what isn't, because that play was so intense and fucked up. Like, and I actually heard a funny story is that even Joan Blondell, who played Sarah, the playwright on set, I guess on set of the film, she would be like, are we acting right now, or are we paused? Like, what's going on? Like, the movie was so realistic that even she couldn't tell when they were filming and when they weren't.
Wow. And so, and Joan Blondell's like a classic, like she came up in the silent era.
Yeah.
Like she is like, yeah, she's like, you know, acting royalty. So it's fun to see her with such a meaty role. And her and Gena going head to head, because it was like two different totally generations of Hollywood clashing. It was really it was just cool, very cool.
Yeah, both of them absolutely killed it together. But yeah, I thought that was like the perfect kind of like non-spoiler anecdote to describe the fucking mind games this movie plays on you as a viewer.
Yeah.
And clearly even as an actor.
Yeah. Mind games is a good way to put it. Let me just look at my notes here. The thing I said, the first thing I typed, because it happens in the first shot,
Mm-hmm.
and I already mentioned it in the last movie, but I guess I have to mention it again now, is that she just looks so cool. Like the first shot, she's like walking in and the prop guy's like right behind her. And
Mm-hmm.
the prop guy like takes a cigarette out of her mouth and she like blows the smoke and then she like chugs a bunch of booze. And she's like such a mess, but she looked so cool doing it. And I was like, God damn, I'm in. All right.
Yeah.
I'm in with this character.
It's like that old Hollywood charm where it's like, yeah, that maybe wouldn't fly today or be very charming today, but somehow it just is.
It just worked. Yeah, this was I loved this movie. It continued to surprise me. I never knew where it was going. Like you said, I did not like the Nancy character, the spirit of Nancy. I'm still trying to figure out the intricacies of what that is. Like I'll say this. This movie demands a rewatch, and I have this was the one movie I hadn't seen that we're discussing that I hadn't seen prior to this episode.
Oh, cool.
So I'm excited to rewatch it. In fact, if it's playing at the Cinematheque, I'll probably go check it out there.
Oh, that would be amazing.
So yeah, it just continued to surprise me. Her performance continued to just level up and level up and level up. And there's some scenes again, like we talked about with the last one, where they just stay in it. Like the scene where they're rehearsing the slap.
Oh my God.
There's a scene in the play where Myrtle gets slapped. And in a movie, you could really fake a slap or you could fake a punch because, you could put the camera in a specific place and you don't need to connect at all. When you're doing a play, you have to connect a little bit because you got to hear the sound of the slap. So they're rehearsing that and Myrtle is, not feeling it. She's not feeling safe or comfortable with any of this. And the director and her co-star are trying to like talk her through it. And she's just, it should also be mentioned that she has like a romantic history with both of these men. She has like
with every man
with pretty much every man involved in this story.
Yeah.
So there's some of that layered into this as well.
For sure.
But anyways, the scene is just so uncomfortable to watch, and you want it to end desperately for her, and you just there's so many times throughout this movie where I'm like, my God, please just let this woman take a nap. Let her take a nap. That's what she needs.
Yeah. It's so true. And I actually just realized too, like, one thing I noticed that was so interesting is even though, like, in those moments where something is happening that just makes you feel so deeply uncomfortable and you're waiting for it to end, it'll go on forever. But then there are other moments where it's like, we're kind of starting to get more out of her, and then it'll cut super fast to a completely other new scene. And you're like, wait, whoa. It's like disorienting. And I think in a way that's like mirroring how she feels, because I feel like she is kind of just like falling through time, especially as like a not so functioning alcoholic. Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting as well, like just editing wise, I guess, if that makes sense.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, and it's all by design. That Cassavetes, he's a sick fuck, man.
He really is. But he knows how to make a damn good movie.
He does. I'm going to get into a little bit of the spoiler stuff here.
Yeah. I mean, we have to.
Before we get into the spoiler stuff, I will say there was one point halfway through the movie where I had to pause it and go to the bathroom. And in that moment of me going to the bathroom, midstream, if you will, I had the thought that I totally forgot that I was watching Gena Rowlands, and because she just disappeared into Myrtle. Like I was, she became Myrtle. And to Cassavetes' credit as well, like I forgot that it was those two acting, like
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot these guys are married, and they do not feel married.
No.
This movie, like
Not at all.
if
Yeah.
somebody didn't know that and you told them that after, you'd be like, what?
It's so true.
So credit to them on that. Now into the spoiler stuff. The build to the end. So basically, they're done with the previews, and what's her name? Myrtle
Myrtle, yeah.
Myrtle has gone deep into. She's on the edge of madness here. This Nancy's continued to visit her. She's can't connect to the character. These working partners are less than ideal. And she's drinking throughout all of it. And it's gotten to opening night. That's the title of the movie, Opening Night.
Yeah.
on Broadway. And they build to this play going up as like if she's going to show up or not. It's just so dramatic. Oh man, my heart was racing. And then in the midst of that scene, I had an old man kind of thought too, which was I don't even know if you have experienced this ever, Bella. The crowd starts clapping in unison,
Yeah.
I forgot about that. We used to do that all the time. When you were waiting for a play or a concert or something, and it was like people would start clapping their hands in unison to be like, all right, let's get her going.
Let's get the show on the road.
But now people don't do that anymore because they're on their cell phones. They're just like,
oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
I can look at Instagram. I don't care when this goes on.
That makes me sad.
But before, it used to be like, all right, we're excited. Let's get the party started. Bah, 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 bah. And they'd be like, all right. You'd be rushing backstage. You'd be like, goddamn, they're hungry for it, No longer.
Oh, man. What an energy shift
for
like the performers as well. Wow, that's crazy.
And then in that scene, she shows up drunker than shit. I mean, fucking can barely stand. And there's this scene where she's falling down. She can't even stand. And the costumer and the prop man are like dragging her through the hallway. And I just love the nod to the below the line people, to the stage hands who sometimes literally have to carry the weight of these actors on their shoulders, because I have been that guy carrying an actor who's can't stand. And I was like, all right, Cassavetes, you get it. You get it, bro.
You get it. I love that.
But then the final showdown with Gena and John is so crazy and so meta. And you could tell they've gone off script. And you could tell they're talking about the themes of the play, but they're also talking about the themes of the film. And they're asking the questions that Myrtle's been asking the whole movie. And it's just like, ooh, you're on the edge of your seat. And it's just like, oh my God, what is going to happen? Anyways, what did you think of this ending, Bella?
Oh my God. I was like, I genuinely don't have the words to describe how incredible Gena is in that final scene, and just how incredible that final scene is, like, just to so convincingly play this like blacked out person. And then like also the fact that she's improvising as her character who's drunkenly improvising the end of this play, like right. I don't even know if that's said correctly, because I'm like, oh, it's just mind-boggling. It's incredible work, and give her all the Oscars for that, honestly. Like, this was just one of the craziest kind of, I guess, climaxes I've ever seen in a film, of like, I had no idea where it was going to go. I didn't think, and obviously spoiler, I didn't think she was going to pull it off. I really didn't.
Neither did I.
I was almost like, what? This is like a little too happy for Cassavetes. Right. But then at the same time, it's still like, has that discomfort, so it just works. It doesn't feel like, oh, that was like lame. You know, it's actually amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was honest, because She pulled it off, but what did she pull off? But
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was so true to her character as well. Is
exactly,
like
yeah.
no matter how drunk she is, like she is that girl. Like she can do it. Even if it's not necessarily like the best performance or the worst performance, because obviously they get multiple uh mixed reviews, if you will.
Fascinating,
But yeah,
fascinating movie.
yeah.
A courageous performance. A courageous movie. Like this movie, it takes balls to go out and do something like this, man. My
For
God.
sure. Yeah. Do you think that any of Myrtle's character was like almost inspired or like a fictionalized kind of version of like Marilyn Monroe? Because I did notice in one scene,
Mm.
like at the end of the film, when she goes to see Maurice in his like hotel room or something, when he opens the door, he only opens it like slightly, but you can see a sliver of like that classic blown up big black and white photo of Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh my god, like she has so many similarities to all the stories and like persona that we've been told around Marilyn Monroe and like just being absolutely idolized and adored by all her fans and having these complicated, maybe unprofessional and borderline unethical relationships with men in her work life, or like being objectified and then also treated like a workhorse, or like the alcohol and the addiction that like consumes her and like just spiraling out of control. I don't know. I was just like, oh, I didn't know if that was maybe like a direct inspiration or more of just like, you see any similarities, if you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I hadn't
I
thought
don't
about
know.
that, but I mean, you totally could be onto something. I mean, there's truth in it, whether it was intentional or not. There's definitely truth in
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, it just made that like that shot. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if that was just like a subtle nod." But
She does have very like bouncy Monroe-esque hair in this.
and that's the other thing, is she kind of looks like her a little bit. At the same time, I love that it's not like a direct reference. Like she's still so just like an unimaginable character. Like I don't even know how someone wrote this and then went on to perform it. It's
Yeah.
just amazing.
Yeah.
Truly amazing.
Any final thoughts on opening night?
Final thoughts, highly recommend. Hard recommend. Like this movie is insane, and yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
To say
Yeah,
the least.
there was multiple times in the movie where I was like, "Oh shit, we're doing this now?" Like
Yeah.
the movie is this? I thought the movie was something else. And
Yeah.
that happened to me like 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah, at one point I had like a jump scare and I was
Yeah,
like, "What the
yeah,
fuck?"
yeah.
Like
I know exactly the spot you're talking about where I was like,
Yeah.
"Ah!"
I literally like screamed. I was like, "What? This is not what I expected from Cassavetes."
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of fun. You'll never know what to expect, which is always a good thing in the cinema.
So opening night is streaming now on HBO Max. Check it out. Incredible movie. Really incredible movie. We are going to take a break, my friend. And speaking of incredible movies and incredible women, Sonja Mereu, the love of my life, she's going to give you Sonja's movie minute. And we can't not mention A Woman Under the Influence on this, even though Bella and I talked about it. We have to talk about it a little bit. So Sonja's going to discuss A Woman Under the Influence during Sonja's movie minute. Stick around for all that and more here on the Gimme Three podcast.
Hello, I'm Sonja, and this is my movie minute. Gena Rowlands really had the best face. Every time I watch one of her movies, I just become obsessed with watching her face. Of course, part of it is that she's beautiful. She has flawless skin and these eyes that have the coolest shape. But I think what's most appealing about her face is how she can express the entire range of human emotions, sometimes in the same scene, sometimes even in the same moment. A Woman Under the Influence really is a masterclass in acting and expression. Gena plays a woman named Mabel, a wife and a mother, who's struggling with mental health issues. She's internally and externally fighting to maintain a grip on reality while attempting to fulfill the role of wife and mother that's expected of her. Each heartbreaking moment of that struggle is written on her gorgeous and fascinating face. And each moment of her elated mania is there as well. John Cassavetes, her partner in life and work, directed many of her greatest roles. And I'm sure that's part of what makes looking at Gena so moving and profound. We see her through the lens of someone who truly loved and admired her, someone who knew her greatest strengths and her greatest fears. And she must have felt that it was a safe place to explore every inch of who she could be, who she wanted to be, and who she was afraid to be. I know what it's like to work with a partner who truly believes that you are the most amazing woman on earth. And somehow it enables you to become what they see in you, both inside and out. So rest in peace, Gena and John. Thank you for your movies and for your love of each other.
All right, welcome back to the Gimme Three podcast, everybody, a series for cinephiles. And on today's episode, we are celebrating the life and the career of Gena Rowlands. And I'm very happy Sonja was able to touch on A Woman Under the Influence on this episode. As I mentioned, Bella and I go into it pretty deep on episode 15, our Great Mother character episode. So check that out. But if it's okay with you, Bella, I want to tell one quick anecdote about A Woman Under the Influence.
Please.
Please because do. I just watched a little interview about this recently, and so they're getting ready to make the movie, right? And Gena's a little stuck on how to approach this character. Such a, complicated
I
woman.
wouldn't know where to begin. Yeah. How does anyone begin to do that?
And so Cassavetes said something like, Gena was like, "Hey, John, I'm a little stuck here. Can you help me out?" And Cassavetes said, "Gena, I wrote this part with you in mind. And you read it and you told me that you liked it." And she said, "Yeah, I like it." And he said, "And you told me you wanted to do it." And she's like, "Yeah." And he said, "So do it." And she said, it was the most wonderful feeling of freedom. Because he told her basically, this part is yours. Like it belongs to you. And she felt very grateful that it was just like the present from the author of the film that this element of the movie is all you. And so when you watch that incredible performance, it's all Gena. It is all Gena. So I just thought that was an interesting tidbit on one of her most iconic performances. And
I love it.
During the break, I was able to look up the calendar for the Cinematheque. If you have not seen A Woman Under the Influence, or you want to rewatch it, God bless you. It is screening Sunday, September 8th at the Egyptian Theater. Definitely worth checking out. I haven't even seen it on the big screen, so we'll see if I'm a glutton for punishment and want to go see it again.
I'm right there with you. Honestly, after watching these three, it did cross my mind. I was like, maybe I will watch it. And I was like, who am I kidding? I literally said, I'm glad I've seen it, so I never have to watch it again.
But you know what they are playing also, Miss Bella, is Friday, September 6th, The Notebook.
Oh my God, it's perfect.
The Notebook playing Friday, September 6th.
Shit, I might have to do it.
Might have to do it. Well, there's one more incredible Gena Rowlands film to talk about today, and that one Bella is going to take us through.
Yes, we've got our third and final film of the day. Another Oscar-nominated performance from Gena Rowlands in John Cassavetes' 1980 crime thriller, Gloria. Gloria, played by Gena Rowlands, of course, is a tough middle-aged single woman living in New York City, who tends to keep to herself and has never really needed nor wanted the company of others, including a partner or children. All she's ever needed, as she says, is her cat, Big Fella, who's an adorable star of this film. But one day she gets wrapped up in a dangerous mess when she's forced to take in her neighbor's young son after the mob has killed his entire family. The boy, named Phil, played by John Autumn. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I was looking it up, but I think it's John Adam. But he has a book from his father that the mob is after. So even though Gloria is very reluctant to take him in, they end up on the run from the mob together all over New York City. And if you're listening to this and thinking, this sounds really familiar, yeah, there are plenty of remakes of this film. In my opinion, the most obvious one that came to mind that was clearly inspired by this is Luc Besson's 90s version with Jean Reno and Natalie Portman in Leon the Professional.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, before jumping into my thoughts on the film, I wanted to quickly pass it over to you, Nick. Had you seen Gloria? You'd seen Gloria before, right? Because you'd seen all of them except for opening night.
I had seen Gloria before. I really loved it. I seen it on the big screen, actually, not too long ago, and loved it. And it was on this rewatch that I thought, you know why I love this movie? This is Cassavetes doing high concept. So,
yes,
for our audience that don't know what a high concept film is, a high concept film is like it's like what you would consider like your standard blockbuster movie. It's not what Cassavetes normally does. Like, oh, let's look at a suburban family and what the intricacies are of their emotions. That is not high concept. That's not so. What if, I'm trying to think of an example. What if we cloned dinosaurs? That's Jurassic Park. Okay, that's a high concept movie where it's just like, oh, I know it. Let's go see that. It's what you read in the paper, high concept. So anyways, this is Cassavetes doing high concept, which is, this middle-aged woman gets stuck with a little boy and she's running from the mob. What if? And so I love Cassavetes doing high concept because it's so much fun. But I want to discuss the break into Act 2 of this movie, which is in American cinema structure. There's like a 3-act structure, something Cassavetes would often reject. Again, so this is like new for Cassavetes. But in this film, his reach across the aisle for this Hollywood blockbuster, he delivers my favorite moment of the film in this break into Act 2. In a break into Act 2, it's where the movie changes. It's the character has come to this point where it's the point of no return. They have to make a decision of which way they're going to turn, Yeah. And in this movie, this annoying Puerto Rican kid is like, Gloria, I don't want you. I don't want you no more, Gloria. Get away from me. I love you, Gloria. I'm just kidding. I love you, Gloria. And she's like, get the fuck away from me, you little fucking kid. I got my cat. I got my money. I don't want you. And so she's at this point where she's stuck in the middle of the street in broad daylight. This is a break in Act 2. She's got this kid, broad daylight, and the fucking mob just pulls up right there. And you're like, oh shit, she's stuck. She's just got to abandon. This kid's dead. It's over.
Yeah.
And I had seen the movie before, but when I was on the rewatch, I was like, how does she get out of this? And she takes the gun out and she starts shooting these fucking mob guys in the face. And then it's so badass. And then after that, and the car's driving away and it tumbles over and it's total mayhem. And then what is she? This is my favorite moment of the film. There's the fucking dead mobsters everywhere. The kids looking at her like, oh, Jesus Christ. And she goes, taxi? Oh, my God. I was like, oh, dude, this is the greatest break into Act 2 ever. amazing.
It's so good.
Amazing.
I literally wrote that in my notes too. Just Taxi.
So fucking good. Okay, those are basically my initial thoughts on the movie.
I love it. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. That scene was that was like a game changer. And even like to your point of like high concept, in a way it makes so much sense to me that Cassavetes' style would translate so well as like a thriller. And I loved this film as a thrill. Like my heart was racing, but also it's like got some like kind of goofy comedic elements to it. That I just really loved. And I'm always here for like an unconventional badass character, if you will. Like in the first 2 minutes of meeting Gloria, I kind of just thought I went into this completely blind, so I had no idea what it was about or anything. And in the first 2 minutes of meeting her, I thought she was just going to be like a grumpy older woman for no reason, like just mean for no reason.
Right.
And I loved how we kind of get to know more about her character over the course of the film, and everything like ultimately does explain her attitude. And she's just so much more. Like she has so many layers and so many crazy life experiences in her past that she briefly touches on that really define who she is today. And she's confident and smart and like kind of fucking crazy too. She's got that amazing line where she's like, "It's nothing for me to blow someone's brains out. I just hope it's someone I know."
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Oh my God. Like she's just violent and unfazed by violence and death. And I just love the idea of this, like, I guess, sorry, spoiler alert for anyone who does want to watch the film, but maybe not. I don't know. Because I went into this blind, I wasn't really sure what was like in the synopsis of it, but just in case, just skip like 2 seconds ahead. But I just love like the idea of this former gangster's girlfriend being the fucking man. Like nobody fucks with Gloria. She runs that shit. And obviously then that brings us to like the themes that like gender roles that I thought this film had a really interesting exploration of like gender roles or norms from the very beginning.
Absolutely. I mean, you even have this little 6-year-old Puerto Rican kid. As soon as they get teamed up, he's telling her, "I'm the man. I'm the man, Gloria. Not you, me." It's like, kid, you don't even know which side of the fucking pot to piss on. Shut up.
I love how she shuts him down.
Yeah.
And then, like from the get-go, we have those like assertive traditional stereotypes or ideas of gender. And as Gloria like continuously protects Phil, this little kid, and teaches him everything he knows about the world and survival in life, he has this amazing line where he's like, "You're my mother and my father," because she doesn't fit like the traditional maternal, nurturing, passive vibes expected of a woman. Like she's tough, she's independent, violently resourceful in her own terrifying way. She's a protector, a survivor, and I think that in itself kind of like defies or challenges the traditional female stereotypes in film and in society. And I just thought her relationship with Phil is really interesting to analyze through this lens as well, because they have a really funny relationship. Like she's not affectionate or even very kind to him. They kind of just like bicker with each other and annoy the hell out of each other the entire time.
Right.
But every time Phil's safety or life is at risk, she's doing everything she can to like protect him. And even vice versa. Like as he watches her thought processes and actions in like the face of danger, he learns how to protect her as well. And so this kind of shows like a different kind of maternal bond that Phil and Gloria have. And again, sorry, spoiler, but like in the final line is hilarious to me because she says, "Aren't you going to kiss your grandmother?" Which like still leaves their relationship just completely undefined. And I love that. Right. It's so good.
Something else I love about Gena's performance in this, which is the comedic element of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she's got kind of this like snarky Mae West energy, kind of like, kind of like, "Oh yeah, like that kind of deal." Which is a wild kind of departure for both her and Cassavetes, but it really, really works in this movie, and it's like very welcome because there's like they're in a constant state of danger. So the little, oh yeah, that whole shit, it just makes the movie so much fun while all the time being so totally thrilling, and you're on the edge of your seat and everything.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's what makes it such a like blockbuster as well. Or like similar to that vibe.
Mhm.
And then like she even this one line I love is where she's like, "Come on, I'd love it. Don't hang back. I'd love it."
Yeah.
And she's like egging this guy on to attack her so she can shoot him.
Right.
And you're just like, "Oh my god, this bitch is crazy, but she's so fucking cool at
Yeah.
the same time."
Yeah.
I love it.
The other impressive thing about this performance, two things that I notice is like, most of the work that she's doing is she's performing with a 6-year-old kid, which
Yeah.
you might as well be performing against a fucking cat for the whole movie, because it's about as easy to get a 6-year-old, having worked with a bunch of 6-year-olds on set and a bunch of cats on set. I could tell you, the difference is small. So God bless her for that. And then the other thing is she is running in heels the entire film, running through the streets of New York City in heels.
Yes.
The entire film. I've also ran in heels multiple times, and I can tell you, it sucks.
It hurts. Yeah, I loved the like city as a character kind of theme they had going on from beginning to end.
Sonja loved that too. She's like, "Ooh, that's there. Ooh, that's there."
Yeah.
She's like, "You're really getting a tour of New York with this movie."
Yeah, and like within the first 2 minutes, they almost like bang you over the head with it. It's literally like the opening shots of this film is all New York iconography. It's like the Yankee Stadium, the Statue of Liberty, the Brooklyn Bridge. But then over the course of the film, they are going everywhere, and it's so much fun. Like it's like a race. And like also I love how this just fuels kind of like the paranoia that they're experiencing, because it's like I think for most of the film, if not all, it's all during the day when they're out like on the street.
Yeah, for the most
So
part.
there's people all over, but at the same time that means that like any one of the people could be the gangsters.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, it's so intense and I love it.
One other thing that I love about it is the Bill Conti score.
Oh my god!
The score
yes.
kicks ass. It kicks
it
fucking
does.
ass. Bill Conti, very famous composer. You may recognize his work from Rocky, one of the greatest American scores of all time. He also did Karate Kid, which the Karate Kid score, okay, but the Karate Kid Part 2 score. Now, the Karate Kid Part 2 score, that's a score to write home about. He did that as well. But I love the score in this movie.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. It was one of my first notes in all caps, is just this score fucking rocks. Like it carries you through the film as well. Like just keeping that momentum and like the anxiety and the thrill. Oh my god, it's so much fun. I loved this movie. The more I'm like, because this was the first one I watched, so I watched it a while ago now, but coming back to it today, I'm just like, oh, I'm ready to rewatch. I had so much fun.
It's good. I mean, I've watched it twice in the last like 6 months, and it was just as thrilling and exciting watching it the second time. I was like, oh, fuck. It's just a banger movie. It's just banging.
It really is. Yeah. Like you can't not like it, honestly.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
There's violence and cussing and all that stuff. So I say this like with a grain of salt, but it's one the whole family can enjoy, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Any other final thoughts before we move on from Gloria?
Final thought would be, I just fucking love how Gena Rowlands says okay. Like she says it in such a distinct way in all the films, but I really noticed it in this one, but I wish I could do a good impression of it, but it's almost like, it almost sounds like a different word. And she says it so much in this film. Like she'll be like, okay, get over there. Okay. And I just, every time she says it, I'm like, yes, let's go.
That was pretty good.
So,
that was pretty good.
Thanks. Had to shout that out. But yeah.
Yeah, there's so many like great nuggets of brilliance and genius and specificity because they're not doing all of these incredibly dense character work and trying to understand the plight of all, Americans, like Cassavetes and Gena normally do.
Yeah.
They're
It's
able,
like not that deep.
they're able to like have fun, and you get little shit like that where it's just like, man, these guys are just masters. They could do anything. They could just do anything. It's
so true.
So fucking good. I'm glad we picked this one to talk about because it's such a wild departure for them, and it's you're watching a bunch of their movies back to back. It makes you appreciate this one, I think, even more because the contrast is apparent.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, Gloria, it is actually screening as a part of the Gena Rowlands Remembered series that the American Cinematheque is doing. So Saturday, September 7th, it's screening at 2 p.m. That's a Saturday matinee movie. Perfect. Absolutely perfect time to go see it. The Egyptian Theater. Please check it out on the big screen. It's absolutely worth the watch. So much fun. And it's available on demand, I'm sure, as well. So you can do that if you want to be less cool. Well, my friends, that about does it, I think, for us. Let us know what you think of these films. Let us know what your favorite Gena Rowlands film is. Please do. We want to hear from you. And you can do that. You can message us. You go to Instagram. You go into that search menu. You type in Gimme Three Podcast. That's GIMME, spell out 3 podcast. Message us there. Let us know your favorite Gena Rowlands film. Or you can send us a text message. And you can do that by scrolling down to the episode description. And there's a link there that says send us a text message. You click on that link and you're going to send us a text message. Let us know what you think of these movies. Let us know your favorite Gena movie. Bella, tell the lovely folks where they can find you on the socials.
You guys can find me on Instagram at Portrait of a Cinephile or on Letterboxd at Efstratis.
And you can find me on Letterboxd at Nicholas Ybarra, on Instagram at Nicholas Ybarra, and on Twitter, also known as X, at Nicholas P. Ybarra, and the P stands for perfectionist. Well, that's going to do it, everybody, for the Gimme Three podcast today. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll see you at the movies. Please say hi to me if you're at any of these Gena Rowlands films. Say hi to us. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you later.